When the British Empire crossed the seas, it carried more than soldiers and settlers. It brought superstition, folklore, and the unseen world that haunted the old isles. The black dogs of the Suffolk moors, the corpse candles of Welsh valleys, the screaming skulls locked in Yorkshire attics. In the New World, those ghosts met new lands, new peoples, and new fears. They did not merely arrive, they negotiated. Some were driven mad by the vastness. Others mated with the spirits already rooted in red clay and pine shadow. This is what was born when the Empire's shadow touched North America. A union of old spirits and new soil. A Creole pantheon stitched from grief, gunsmoke, and moonlight. The Banshee of the Blue Ridge. In the high valleys of Appalachia, settlers from Ulster, Scotch-Irish fleeing famine and rack rent, told of a cry in the mist, a sound that froze the blood and silenced the forests. They said it was the Banshee, the woman of the fairy mounds, following the coffin ships across the Atlantic. But the mountains already had their own spirits. The Cherokee spoke of the Anihuntaquala, the ones who walk at night, pale figures who appeared 3 days before a death, combing long black hair with bone combs. Some believed the old and the new had merged, becoming one voice of warning in the wilderness, a voice braided from Gaelic and Sulagi. By 1873, such stories were no longer confined to firesides. In Asheville, widow Mary O'Leary swore she heard a woman's keen outside my cabin, the night before her husband vanished on Black Balsam Knob. Decades later, in 1937, a Works Progress Administration folklore collector recorded an identical wail on Roan Mountain. Locals claimed it spoke to tongues at once. And in 1994, a paranormal team camped near Devil's Courthouse captured an EVP on tape. A woman's voice whispering Mo, Creech, my sorrow, coming soon. Grief, it seems, has no borders. It simply learns a new tongue. The witch fires of Salem. Long before the hysteria of 1692, English settlers brought the lore of the cunning folk, wise women and charmers from Cornwall, Essex, and Kent. In England, they healed the sick with yarrow and rowan, protected the fearful with witch bottles filled with bent pins and urine. But in the Puritan colonies, those same traditions, poppets, herbal charms, the cunning man's knots, became marks of the devil. When the trials ignited in Salem, the old world's fears had found new soil. Among the court records, Cotton Mather noted a confession from Tituba, an enslaved woman from Barbados who spoke of a yellow bird that spoke in a Devon accent. Centuries later, the past would claw its way to the surface again. In 1957, during an excavation at Gallows Hill, archaeologists unearthed a poppet of corn husk and red wool, dated to the 1690s, a charm meant for protection, not harm. And since the 1970s, mediums visiting the old witch house have reported the smell of burning yew wood and a woman's voice murmuring the charm of St. John in Middle English. Fear crossed the Atlantic disguised as faith, and reason burned on the pyre with the accused. The witch fires of Salem were lit by the embers of the old world, and the smoke still carries the scent of rosemary for remembrance. The Phantom Regiment of Quebec. On the frozen fields of Quebec, soldiers of Britain and France clashed beneath a northern sky. The Battle of the Plains of Abraham, 1759, Wolfe and Montcalm, both dead within hours. Many fell where the snow covered their blood, and some say they never left. In 1775, an American rebel marching north through the same fields wrote of a column of dead men drilling on the plains at 3 in the morning. A century later, in 1889, a priest told the Quebec Morning Chronicle that he'd heard ghostly voices chanting Dieu et mon droit in perfect 18th century French. Even modern science has failed to banish the dead. In 2001, an infrared camera trained over the old battlefield recorded 14 heat signatures locked in formation. Though the air was 22 degrees below zero, travelers still hear the beat of ghostly drums, the crack of muskets that echo like breaking ice, and see pale figures marching where no road remains. Redcoats in tattered scarlet, French in faded blue, bayonets fixed eyes. The Empire's dead still keep watch over a victory long forgotten by the living, still answering roll call in 2 dead languages, their breath a faint gun smoke on the cold. The Lady of Niagara. They called her the Lady in White, a figure seen drifting in the mist beside Niagara Falls. Some say she was Lilawala, the maiden of the mist of the Ongiara, who paddled her canoe over the edge to join the thunder god Hinnom. Others insist she was Eliza Rutledge, a British officer's wife, who leapt in 1811 after her husband drowned in the whirlpool. In 1832, a steamboat captain logged that he'd seen a woman in white standing on the rocks mid-river, untouched by spray. Nearly a century later, in 1923, a guide exploring the Cave of the Winds discovered a sodden wedding veil pinned by a silver thistle brooch, a Scottish hallmark from 1809. And in 2018, hydrophones anchored below the falls captured a strange layered vibration, a woman's voice, braided from Gaelic keening and the Seneca death song. Beneath the roar of the falls, her lament is said to echo still, the sorrow of empire and the ache of memory, forever caught between 2 worlds, drowned yet never silenced, her veil trailing like smoke on water. The lost colony of Roanoke. When England's first colony vanished from the coast of Carolina, they left a single word carved in wood, Croatoan. Some believed they joined the Croatoan tribe, learning to fish the Outer Banks. Others whispered that they were taken by the wilderness itself, or by the young Wisunsdi, the little people of Cherokee lore, who lure children into caves with promises of cornbread and honey. Rumors of survivors endured. In 1608, Jamestown settler John Smith heard of white Indians wearing ruffs and farthingales. In 1937, a lumberjack from Dare County unearthed a child's shoe. Its silver buckle engraved ED 1587, the initials of Eleanor Dare. By 1998, archaeologists using ground-penetrating radar at Fort Raleigh detected rectangular voids aligned east to west, English-style graves, buried for centuries deep. And most haunting of all, in 2021, a night vision trail camera on Hatteras Island captured a lone figure in a 16th century doublet, mouthing the Lord's Prayer in a tongue for centuries dead. Perhaps the New World did not destroy them. Perhaps it kept them, changed them into something that walks between languages, between centuries, between flesh and story. Their footprints washed away by water, their breath a final curl of smoke against the cold. Empires rise and fall, but their stories endure, not written in stone, but whispered in the dark, carried on the breath of the living and the sigh of the dead. The ghosts that crossed the ocean still linger, where the old faith met the new frontier, in the hollow of a banjo string, in the flicker of a hearth that burns blue, in the sudden silence before a storm, where a black dog's eyes glow unseen. They are the Empire's echo, faint, distant, but never silent. And if you listen at the edge of the map, where the pine meets the sea, you may hear them answer your name, in a voice you almost remember, braided, smoky, cold. If If these tales have stirred something in the dark, and you'd like to hear more of them unearthed in full, leave your thoughts below. Tell us which haunting calls to you, and perhaps, in time, we'll return to its shadow for a deeper telling.